by the time you would be watching this, or at least by the time this gets uploaded, it would be Black Friday. And I guess to stick with that theme politically, I'm going to make my, quick crash course history type explainer video as to why I am a pro-capitalist. I wouldn't call myself a hardcore capitalist, like open up every single market and take away every regulation, but I think capitalism is inherently good. Um, And, it's kind of interesting that the way politics is molding, people are moving away from the word capitalism. I remember vividly Kamala Harris did not use the word capitalism at all. She rather used the word opportunity economy, whatever the fuck that means, with all due respect. Um, I mean, even Trump kind of stays away from the word capitalism. He likes to use the word communism a lot, and Marxism, and all that kind of stuff, which is a topic of another day. But I think capitalism to me is a great system. It's a beneficial system. It can be misused, but you know, done right, it is the correct system. So I guess this is where I'll just start by saying, within your family, right, your immediate family, you have your mom, your dad, your siblings, maybe even your cousins, depending on which culture you come from. Communism, sure, be a communist, right? When I ask my parents for money, or when I need something maybe to buy school supplies, are my parents asking me, what do you need the money for? Why do you need the money? You owe me back. I'm going to put interest on this. No, it's a communist society. You give what you need, you take what you need, and all this kind of stuff. Sure, be a communist with your family. But when you're talking about the United States of America, with every culture, creed, religion known to mankind, communism and socialism starts to fade away. And that's because communism and socialism is built on the idea of trust, that you have trust in the government, trust that the people who you elect or get elected, are going to do the right thing with your money and equally distribute the money. I happen to be on the side that, I don't trust the government very much. I would consider myself a libertarian on many issues where the less the government touches our money, the better. And, I'm of the opinion that the government can touch our money and can use taxes, obviously, but make it so that the least amount of possible, the least amount of taxes, the least amount of government subsidies and spending and welfare program possible to keep the economy booming. That's what I'm of the opinion for. So technically a mixed economy, but more adherent to those capitalistic principles. Now, a lot of people, in my campus, around my college, who are proponents of socialism tell me, well, look, there's a inequality right now between, people of color, typically the black community, where they're suffering at the feet of capitalism. And while I agree with you, there are discrepancies within the capitalistic society of America. That is not real capitalism. That's what I call crony capitalism. Famously, there was this idea of Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the black community migrated to Tulsa, Oklahoma. They started making businesses, working within, giving back to their communities through venture capital endeavors, and they were able to amass a great economy, economy of scale, and it was only growing bigger. Problem was, there were white supremacists back in the day and just racists, and they burned the town down. That's not capitalism. I believe capitalism is colorblind inherently. And, you talk about the idea of the poverty trap where, and this is the case that I bring up the most, it's like, if you trust the government to hand out money and help the poor, quote unquote, you know, what they'll do is say, hey, and I'm just using imaginary numbers here. Let's say, hey, the poverty line's at $13 an hour. If you make $13 an hour, you can qualify for food stamps, welfare, et cetera, et cetera. You take out the food stamps, you can buy your groceries for the week, you live fine and dandy. But then the problem becomes when you go from cashier to shift lead and you start making 15 an hour, you automatically lose your benefits. And once you lose your benefits, it almost feels like that you live a worse life than, when you were making $13 as a simple cashier. And on top of that, you talk about Section 8 homes, where people don't even own their homes. The government owns the homes. Where's the incentive for the government to, make sure the houses are nice or keep its value or anything like that? If you were to truly want to help the inner community, the inner city communities, you would make and help them build capital, hence the name capitalism. You would make them start businesses, help them own their houses and things of that nature. That would much, positively yield a better economy than, you know, just handing out food stamps and things of that nature. I'm not saying food stamps don't work or they don't help or they don't keep people alive. They sure do. But if you want to progress, you know, food stamps is not going to be like, I compare it to the idea where socialism is the sense of, you can either give a man a fish every day or you can teach a man to fish, and, depending on what the man wants to do, he can fish as much as he wants or as little as he wants, whatever he's satisfied with. And I think that's the beauty of capitalism. It's almost a, pick and choose what you want type of layout. I think, ownership in things is better than, a government handing you money that a lot of people don't even know what to do with. And you saw that a lot with the stimulus packages where it's like, when you give some people all these money, with the packages, people just spent it on things that they don't really need. But that's a whole nother can of worms. But, when you talk about pure capitalism, right, how it's advanced over the years, compared to people 50, 100, 200 years ago, we are all richer in the sense, we have nicer things. I have a phone, I have a computer, I have a nice house, a roof over my head. We're all inherently richer than, the people of 100 years ago. And that's capitalism at its work. There's a famous um, anecdote where Gorbachev, who was the last president of the Soviet Union, he went to an American grocery store and he just saw, rows and rows of produce and, fruits and vegetables and fresh fruit year long. And he's like, this communism thing, it just doesn't work. Like I said, communism has a time and place. With your family, with your kinship, go ahead, be a communist. But when you're talking about a, whole aggregate society like the U.S., you can't have the trust. There is no trust in the government because, you know, you can't just expect everything to work hunky dory. And a lot of people bring up, the Norwegian countries of the world, Finland, Sweden, or Norway, what you have it where, free college, free healthcare, free this, and it works. But the problem is, not the problem, but the reason why it works, in my opinion, it's like, you know, they're all the same people. They all come from the same ethnicity. They all practice the same faith. They all lean politically, fundamentally on the same ideas. They all have these shared ideas that just makes it work and makes them have trust in the government. And obviously, they're such a smaller country compared to the U.S. So you're really comparing apples to oranges here, where I'm talking strictly in the United States, capitalism is of benefit. And I know, understand the ideas of redlining and blockbusting and, you know, obviously not giving black folks, the rights to fair mortgage rates back in the day, but that's not capitalism. So I'm frustrated that the moniker of capitalism has been so stigmatized because, all those racist and, terrible, class dividing and racial dividing practices of the 60s and 70s, which are still having carried effects, you know, those are being labeled under the moniker of capitalism. You know, do I think a new Black Wall Street is capable of working in this time? Hell yeah. But I think the problem becomes is, you know, what makes, what makes a politician think the way they do, right? Jewish people make up a fraction of, the United States, yet a lot of, what the current politics is about protecting the Jewish faith, protecting Israel, and all those things because, the APAC has a lot of influence in, the American political sphere. And I'm not arguing whether or not I'm supporting APAC. I'm just pointing out a fact that APAC has a lot of influence. So that leads me to the conclusion, obviously, of, the more money you have, the more influence you have in politics. So if you want to make progressive liberal changes, maybe, if you're concerned with the ideas of racial divides or racism or systemic oppression, whatever the case is, the only way that's going to get solved is, and efficiently that is not so much a protest, but rather building up capital, building up money, funding politicians you want to fund that support your message. And, once the money is there, people will listen to you. So I think, you know, money is so powerful, and capitalism is that tool, that solution that is the biggest guarantor of economic freedom. And I'm not talking crony capitalism. I'm not talking about racist policies. I'm talking capitalism in its essence. And of course, it's not complete capitalism. I'm talking, if monopolies were to exist, and, trusts and all those types of things, and horizontal and vertical integration, obviously the government has a duty to step in. But it doesn't make sense to me that, you know, we're relying on handouts, you know, rather than building up generational wealth. But this is going to be me being a little conspiratorial, but I think, it's almost a benefit for the politicians to keep the people poor. Because, like I said, money talks. And as soon as you give people money, they're going to start talking, and then you're going to have to listen in this country. And that's just the way it is. But yeah, I think capitalism, in conclusion, I would say, as if this is like a school presentation, in conclusion, I think capitalism is an unfortunate necessity in society. And yeah, thank you for watching. Enjoy your Black Friday shopping and whatnot. And I will see you tomorrow, or maybe not. Have a great day. Enjoy your day.